Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There you go, right down there. If you want to be among the first to hear my weekly takes, NFL, college football, more, right there. All right, it's almost a weekly appearance. Nick Wright stops by. And one of the things I like about this, that we can be kind of unrestrained. We can just, there's no boundaries or borders to this. We can just talk about whatever we like. So we've broached this before, where I tend to root for things that make my show more interesting. Yeah. I'm not rooting for a specific team. I thought Knicks Celtics was better.
Yeah.
Obviously, ESPN did if you watch their coverage. I just think Indiana's a bad matchup. New York's bigger, bolder. It matters. Like the Yankees and the Dodgers.
And Jalen Brunson is a cooler story than Tyrese Halliburton. You know what I mean? Even if Halliburton at his best is, an equivalent player to Brunson, I think Brunson's a tick better. The story for the Knicks is better. It just is. The Villanova kids, all of it. It's a better story. And I think even Pacer fans understood, let me think of a good example of this. I think when we were on the precipice of Brady Mahomes in the Super Bowl, right? Then I think even Bills fans understood we're rooting for our team, but Brady trying to take down the guy who just won the Super Bowl's a better story. When the Raptors were trying to beat LeBron in the conference finals and LeBron was trying to get back to play the Warriors again, Raptor fans know what they're rooting for, but they know what the better story is, what the more brings in the casual fan. No doubt about it, but go ahead.
Yeah, like when Michigan in the Connor Stallion story, it was a better story that Michigan was now a national villain and they just kept beating everybody. Right. It was a much better story, and the ratings proved it. People were fascinated. It's also a better story if the Celtics gag against the Pacers or lose to either Dallas or Minnesota, because one of the things we like is the story arc. They're building, they're crushed. Yeah. And I think Boston is going to get to the finals, and I think it'll go 6 or 7. I think they're very deep. They're well built. If Porzingis is healthy, they've got a lot of elements. I think I would take both Dallas and Minnesota against them. But you have been an antagonist to Boston. I haven't. But I've been more critical of Jayson Tatum. Do you feel I feel the exact same way on Tatum, but I felt this 2 years ago, that he often feels like he doesn't have that grab you by the throat gene. And I felt that 2 years ago when I watched him. I feel the same thing. Have you changed your opinion on Boston?
Well, no. So my antagonistic nature towards Boston is there are 35-year-old sports fans who have seen him win one title. There are 30. I'm actually underselling that. There are 38-year-old sports fans who have seen him win one title, and they carry themselves with this aura of as if they are the Lakers, and they're not. And by the way, I'm not a Laker fan. People get mad at this. I am a LeBron James fan. He's my favorite athlete ever. My hometown does not have a NBA team. LeBron, same high school. People ask me, where did the LeBron stuff start? And I don't know if I've told you this before or not. LeBron, same high school class as me. Basketball was my favorite sport. It was I was obviously not some great athlete, but I played high school basketball. My senior year, my whole basketball team would come over to my house to watch St. Vincent St. Mary's when it was on TV, because we thought it was so cool that guys our age were playing on ESPN national games. And then I just decided when I went to college, I was like, wherever he goes, that's going to be my team. I don't have a team. I just love the league. And so I've kind of followed him throughout. So I don't have some affinity to the Lakers, but the Lakers have been relevant and awesome and won championships every decade the NBA has existed. Their down decade is the 1990s, which involved them coming off 5 titles in the 80s, getting to a finals in the early 90s, winning the title in 99-2000 at the start of a three-peat. That's their down decade. The Celtics, since the fall of the Berlin Wall have won one title. And so this idea that they are competing with the Bulls and the Lakers, you're competing with the Raptors for the last 2 generations is who you're competing with. So that, and they don't like to hear that. And there's a lot of Boston members of the media, and I would argue the single most influential member of basketball media is your friend Bill Simmons, to this day, and to his credit for what he's built. And he's obviously a huge Celtics guy. And so I just don't think they have the results to, measure with the way they carry themselves. Now, a point Simmons made that is correct is you look at, this is Tatum. This is the Celtics' 6th conference finals in the last 8 years.
Yeah.
The teams on that list, all of them won at least one and usually multiple championships. The teams that made 5 in 8 years, all except I think one, won at least one and usually multiple championships. If you bang on this door this many times and this year don't come through, well, then you're never going to have a more gilded road to the finals. You face a Heat team without Jimmy Butler. You then in round 2 face a Cavs team that doesn't have Jared Allen and then loses Donovan Mitchell. And in the conference finals, you play a 6-seed Pacers team that got through against an injured Knicks team. So you're going to make the finals. In the finals, you face whomever's there. They're all in their first finals, except for Kyrie, theoretically. But the team, the coach, the organization, all of it. And if you don't win this championship, then you have to ask yourself this question. Will we ever be better positioned? Is there any reason to believe it's going to be different if we don't make a significant change? Where you and I don't focus on the Tatum part as much because to me, Jayson Tatum, they're not the same type of player at all. But Jayson Tatum, to me, is like Clyde Drexler. Like, awesome, really good, can be the best player on a team that loses a championship. But if he is your number one, things really have to be perfect to win the title. And this year, maybe they'll be perfect. But I will pick whomever wins the West, I will pick to win the championship.
Yeah, I worry about Minnesota offensively. If Ant is off, and he'll in a 7-game series, he'll be off a couple times offensively. You have to rely on Karl Anthony Towns, who's always been a little bit of a roller coaster emotionally. Like he depends on the night. Boston's very good offensively. I've thought about this with Tatum, is that it used to be, and it wasn't that long ago, 20, 25 years ago, a great basketball prodigy had a really hard high school basketball coach into a really hard college basketball coach, and then generally a fairly hard NBA coach. Now, it's a different process now. It is an AAU coach who's not really a coach, kind of a coach, would like to be a coach, but the AAU job pays him better than his high school teaching job or whatever job he has. So he does it it's a side hustle. And it's not about really coaching hard. It's about attracting the best players, Detroit Metro, Atlanta Metro, whatever it is. You create this sort of little business, this micro business that attracts the best players. And then you don't go to college. If you do, it's for 1 year. And you can only coach so hard. You have them for a year, right? It's only so much you can ask. And then they go to the NBA and the players have more money and more power than ever. And you got to be careful. You piss off the young star coaches that you're going to become Frank Vogel very quickly. And so I think Tatum, although he's not that kind of personality, is very much modern basketball. Super talented AAU, 1 year Duke, off to the NBA. It's a pretty grooved basketball life. And he's earned it with his talent, right? I'm not saying that. But there is a different world. Tatum's not hardened. He's not hard. And that's okay. I've said this before. My kids will not have my struggle. And they're smarter than I am. But my struggle, I've used this before, Nick, I think I used this the other day with you. Hard times create soft people create soft times, and eventually you need hard people again. Tatum is symptomatic of what I see with a lot of young players in the mid-20s. He's just not hard, but he's really talented.
And maybe it's because, it's anecdotal to my experience. I have your feelings on AAU basketball are mirrored by a lot of people. That I'm not one of them, because the best coaches my son ever had was on the elite of the elite Houston AAU circuit. The guys that coached him at Basketball University in Houston, that coached Quentin Grimes, who used to be, was traded from the Knicks this year. They were teammates together. Were the guys he learned the most from, and all of it. And I also think that I think that when I watch Tatum, what I see is a different criticism, which is, I feel like Anthony Edwards gets the ball. And by the way, he's from the exact same AAU everything. Gets the ball.
Right.
And has no idea what he's going to do on that possession. And he's like, I'm going to fucking read and react, man. I watch Tatum, and I feel at times it's too strategic. It's like
programmed.
Exactly, programmed. And so it's like, and it's to his credit how much he's trained and drilled, but it's like, I'm going to do this and then step back. And I think that can work against him. I think it is less read and react, do this, and more thoughtful. And I think that in the cauldron of some of these clutch moments, which is really the only place he has struggled, that hasn't worked for him. And so, but again, the NBA is just such a unique sport because, and again, we've talked about this before, but if you don't have someone who is a guaranteed statue in front of the arena when they retire, you probably won't ever win a title. Like if you don't have the barrier for entry to winning a title the last 40 years, other than the 04 Pistons, is Dirk Nowitzki, who's the sixth all-time leading scorer in NBA history, an MVP. Like, he's the worst guy to lead a champion. And so what is Dirk? The 19th greatest player ever? It's just so fucking hard in this league. And so that's why, like, I use Drexler intentionally. I got so annoyed when Dame left the Blazers, and news articles, like, not opinion pieces, like the news was like the greatest Blazer in history. And I'm like, did everyone hit their head? Like, what are we talking about? Like, the great Bill Walton had the highest peak, but if you want to say he didn't play long enough, fine. But Clyde did. Clyde was there for a long damn time, went to 2 finals with him, did all of it. So Clyde, I have massive respect for him. He's a great player. There was a 5-year run where he was maybe the 5th best player in the league, probably 6th, 7th, 8th.
Also played on the best college team that never won a title.
There you go. And how did Clyde win his title? He got on a team with one of those top 20 guys, Akeem Olajuwon. Like, it's just Kevin Garnett, one of my favorite players ever. How did he had won a playoff series 1 year of his whole career. He was for a decade in Minnesota. How does he win his title? Well, he joins 2 other, Hall of Famers, and Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, and he's the best guy. So, like, that's always the problem with, and it's why, for the record, I was skeptical of the Nuggets last year, because I didn't think Jokic was going to be in that pantheon. Now, he clearly is. People were a little premature on the dynasty stuff with them, but he's in that group. I think Tatum's the only guy, and this is how everyone, even the Celtics fans that'll get mad, they know I'm right on this. because the Pacers can't win the title, so remove them for a moment. Celtics can win the title, the Wolves can win the title, the Mavs can win the title. If the Wolves win the title, topic on our shows will be, is Anthony Edwards the best player in the league? I don't know if you'll say he is or not, but it will be a question. Certainly, if the Mavs win the title, is Luka Doncic the best player in the league? If the Celtics win the title, nobody is saying Jayson Tatum's the best player in the league. And that's just, and so that tends to put a ceiling on what your team can be. So I don't think that's unfair.
I think mature players tend to find their peak faster. They're more dedicated, they're more refined, they take to coaching, they have better self-awareness. I think Tatum is a very refined, intelligent basketball player and found his ceiling much quicker than people realized. I think he found it 2 years ago. Now, he adds elements to it. LeBron, a very mature player. Dwayne Wade, that the more mature, willing to be coached, kind of a grinder plus the superstar, Kobe, you find your peak faster. I think we keep waiting for Tatum to go to another level. I mean, Anthony Edwards, mature, driven, self-aware. Shit, he's a year away from the peak for about a 6 to 7 year run. So I think immature players, Zion can't get his diet right. John Morant can't get his personal life right. Players that struggle with maturity, and I could name many, they either don't find their ceiling or it may be brief. I think Tatum is what he is. I'm okay with it. He's a top 10 player, but I said it when he came into the league. I'm like, I kept saying he's the 8th best player in the league, and people would go crazy. I'm like, in my entire life, I mean, the 8th best player is often like Clyde Drexler.
So that's the thing. So people get mad about it, but if we were to go, I'm going to try to do this on the fly. I won't be successful at it, but so I'm going to leave some people out. So again, but if we just jump 10 years back, I'll try to do this. I'm not even going to, you know what? I don't want to leave people out, but no, I'm not going to look anything up. In 2014, if we were to say the best players in the league, LeBron was the best, Durant was the second best. Kawhi wasn't quite there yet. Steph was getting there. So when you said the 8th best, you know who the 8th best player in the league in 2014 was thereabouts? Paul George. Paul George, pre-injury, Indiana Pacers, Paul George. If we go 10 years before that to 2004, the 8th best player in the league would have probably been around Kings Chris Webber. Like, you can get to the damn conference final. You know what I mean? That's a guy that is a great player, and that might be a little high for him. Maybe the 8th best player then was Jason Kidd, coming off the back-to-back finals with the Nets, something like that. In 1994, the 8th best player in the league, so right when Jordan was retiring, was probably around Scottie Pippen, Patrick Ewing, those guys. Those are Hall of Fame players that we all remember. 1984 is probably Bernard King adjacent, that area, maybe your guy Alex English. These are all legendary players we remember. And nary a one of them was a champion as the best team, because it's so hard, because that's the league. It's really, really hard to beat.
And now add Europeans' best players, European players. The rest of those guys, Alex English wasn't facing 24 European players, 6 elite. So I look at Jayson Tatum, and I think he is the 7th, 8th best player, and he's facing this barrage, this large influx of great skilled Europeans, often bigs, which have such control of a game. These are not, the European point guard is not changing the world. The European bigs
because a lot of them are point centers or point forwards. I mean, they have the size of the big man, but they have the ball. Luka and Jokic have the ball in their hand the whole game. Wemby wants to play out on the perimeter. A guy's 7'5". Giannis is kind of a point forward type. I know that he's African via Greece. But yeah, the international player, the international guys used to be Arvidas and Vlade, where it's like they can pass, they're skilled, but they're not handling the ball. And you know what I mean? It's obviously changed dramatically.